welcome to another episode of Sport Vitamins. Today, our guest is a friend of mine. He's a strength coach of Maccabi Tel Aviv, Regev Fanan. Welcome, Regev.
Hey, thanks for having me, my man.
How are you doing? I see a big smile on your face. How come?
Well, probably you know the reason, man. It's because we beat you last night. But it's just a regular league game, and still, it doesn't mean anything. It's always fun winning a good team, and you guys have a really good team. So it's good feeling. It's the only thing that is close to EuroLeague now, because EuroLeague is finished, and the game against you is the only high level probably games we might play.
Yes, sure. So for those who don't know you, can you give us a little background?
How far back you want to go?
You choose.
Well, I was ex-player for Maccabi Tel Aviv for 8 seasons. Luckily for me, I was a part of all the great teams, the dynasty teams with Anthony Parker and Sharas and Nikola Vojcic and all these guys. I've had the privilege to play with these guys on the same team. When I finished my role as a player, I started working as a strength and conditioning coach for a junior club in Maccabi Tel Aviv. Then together with this, I did some jobs in first division men's team as a head strength and conditioning coach. And then at 2014, I came back to Maccabi as an assistant strength and conditioning coach. And after 2 years, I got the job of head strength and conditioning coach, and I've been doing it since. Basically, I'm trying to do the best I can in a very, very intense and high profile team.
Yeah, and being an athlete before being a strength coach, was that important for your career?
I think it was very important for my career, just from the side of understanding the demandings of a high-level European player, because I think I have this advantage that I know what all of my players are going through and what are they feeling, how they physically reactions to the stuff that we do. And I think it gives me like a better understanding of the mind of a player that a strength and conditioning or even a basketball coach comes and tells him something, like how it affects him and maybe how to approach better. Like maybe because I was one of the players back in the days, I don't get excited too much like from a player's reactions, if it's good or if it's bad. And I think it gives me a much deeper understanding of the players.
You're also able to take care of your players definitely better than maybe another strength coach that haven't experienced what you've been through, right?
I hope so, because it's also, being an ex-player is also important experience. I always think that a good strength and conditioning coach has to have some like background on himself, like, doing the stuff on his own, see how it feels, like, dealing with all the crises, with all the process. So I think it's a really big part of my advantages, I think, in my opinion, is that I really understand what they're going through.
And who's your mentor, or who are the people you look up to as a strength coach or also as a coach?
Well, when I was at my first years, it was, my professors from the college in Israel, and it was like the strength and conditioning coaches of Maccabi and the national teams of Israel. They really taught me the way and, all the principles, and just the guys that I was asking questions and as a young strength and conditioning coach. And, as you progress, you find some more resources, if it's books that you read or some people all around Europe, such as the great Francesco Cusolin, and, Kostas and Luca. And I think we are very lucky, because even you are some kind of mentor to me. Okay, you are one guy that I can call and ask, hey, what are you doing in this case, and what do you think of this? So I think that the true fun of it is like finding I don't know if mentors is the word, but it's like partners. Maybe we don't work for the same teams, and I want to beat you every time that we go on the court, but I feel that I have so many people that I can relate to stuff they're saying, or even ask questions when I'm stuck or don't have answers. So, I think that mentors at the early phase of your career are probably the older guys than you and the experienced guys. But as you progress, it's like you find partners and you just keep them close to you. And I think I have really good relationships with some of the best strength and conditioning coaches in EuroLeague. So I'm very lucky.
Yeah, I think this is very, very important in our profession to be able to recognize who's good and who's not, and try to share information with those that you consider very, very good. Try to pick their brain and be constantly in contact with them. That's a really smart move if you're in our business. And what do you think it takes to be successful as a strength coach?
Well, first of all, so basic, but I have to say it is you have to be, I think, the hardest worker guy on the system, because I don't see any other way that you can make this job work if you are not first in every practice, last in every practice, like really managing and controlling your field, and like being really an expert. Okay, I'm never gonna say about myself that I'm an expert of anything, but I try to read and learn and research everything that I let my players do, or if it's some principles they have in my work, I really try to be based on this stuff, and really make as minimal mistakes as I can, because we have in our hands, let's say 14 or 15 players that are worth really a lot of money, and we have to be really responsible about the stuff that we do and the things that we tell them, because every small word or sentence that we might tell them might have huge effect for good or for bad. So I really think that the reading, the learning, the self-development is something that is crucial in being good strength and conditioning coach. It has to be really intense. It has to be, you have to be the hardest working guy on the team. I really feel that all the good ones that I speak to and I see, like I see them managing their systems, even though they are not the basketball coach or the general manager. I think that good strength and conditioning coaches are really a big part of their team. Like they take decisions, they make calls, they have people that look up to them. So I think that these are really important things.
Sure, but also I think that doesn't matter how much you study if you don't apply it then yourself first. For example, if I study something, then I go to the weight room and I try it on myself, right? Is that something that you do too?
Yeah, I try to. I work out. I mean, okay, I'm not playing basketball 5-on-5 every day, but I try to work out as hard as my players, just to see, what are the effects of every exercise that I give, and how does one program work. And sometimes I do something and I don't feel comfortable with it, so I might think twice before I give it to my player. But I think is really finding the way, to find a working program, a working system, like really try it on yourself, see how it feels. This is the best way. I mean, for sure, not everything has to be managed by what I feel on my body, because I'm not a player. But let's say if I do one exercise and I might feel that is risky, maybe I won't give it to my player. So
And then it's also important because maybe if one of your players is doing a new exercise and you have experienced that before, you can give a few tips, just move for example, your shoulder like this, you're going to feel it here a little bit more and stuff like that. I think that's very, very important.
Like also, when you want to show a player how to do a certain movement, it's like you have to be perfect. Okay, you work with your players on the court, in the weight room. I'm not young anymore. Okay, I'm 38 years old. I'm dealing with some 20 crazy athletic year old guys, and sometimes without warm up, you gotta show them how it's done, how the exercise needs to be done, and you have to show it in a perfect way. So if you don't do it on your own and you don't know how to show it to your player, it's also can be really problematic. So you gotta be perfect.
Sure. For those who maybe don't understand how tough can be the day of a EuroLeague strength coach. Can you break down for us your daily routine?
Well, basically, it's it's a full-time job. I mean, when people ask me what's the difference of being a strength and conditioning coach of Maccabi Tel Aviv or some other team in Israel, I say like the life around a big team, it makes you really be engaged 24/7 because, like for me, it's like showing up to the office, to our arena, to the weight room, to the court around 8 a.m. And really, even if the practice is only at noon or at evening, or we have a game, it's like you have to be all day around the team. Like you have to see who is coming in the morning for individual work, and you have to be with some young guys in the weight room, and you have to see which player comes to treatments, and you have to handle the loads and share knowledge to all the medical staff and to the coaching staff because you are the guy that connects all. So you really have to, be hands-on. Like you cannot have something happening on your team activity-wise without really being a part of it. Like if there's an individual work with the development staff on the court, I cannot control it from far. I have to be on the court to see what has been done because I want to see what was the volume of practice, what was the intensity. If the player, I don't know, came back from injury and he needs someone to get him loose before the practice to make him feel better while he's working on the court. So really is showing up in the morning, and let's say an average day of practices might finish at 8 p.m. So basically you are here all day long. And if we have a game, then you're working until 12 at night. Of course, without mentioning all the flights and traveling and all the teams that involve, all the things that are involved in a team like Maccabi Tel Aviv, which is really high profile and everybody wants to be a part and, touch the players, and you have sponsor events and all sorts of things that you need to do for the team, for the community, and you have meetings at the office and meetings at the arena. So it's a full time. I mean, it's really 24/7. Sometimes it's exhausting, but I think like it's the best job in the world. So I don't feel like I'm doing something which is, I don't know, crazy. I mean, it's just very natural for me.
Sure. So it's not just sets and reps.
No, it's not. It's I always say is, I think that the word strength and conditioning coach is not enough anymore. It's like really you have to be a great manager in your field to be in such a high level club. Is you have to manage a lot of stuff. You manage your nutritionist, you manage your medical staff, you manage the info that you gather about players. You have to work with the players, of course. You have to recover guys. You have to work with injured guys, with young guys. You have to control the junior team. So there are so many things that involved in our job. Is like that I feel like saying strength and conditioning coach is not enough anymore. Like we are managers, okay? We are the general managers of the development of our players, of the physical aspects of our players.
Sure, we are a performance specialist. This is what we're going towards for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. But sets and reps are still important. So
Yes.
what's your philosophy in the weight room?
Well, basically, you know me already. I really like heavy lifting. I think heavy lifting is first of all, is the best prevention that the player can have, heavy lifting. Like I can do prevention routines all day long, but if my player cannot push a certain weight or cannot squat a certain weight, cannot deadlift certain weight, then I cannot expect him to do the basic things on the court. Okay. I have my players lifting like 2 or 3 times a week. I have my players coming in for another 2 or 3 times just to get their body prepared. Like I think our weight room is a really important station in our daily life. Like a player in Maccabi knows that before he goes to the court, he will go into the weight room to do something. It might be a lift, and it might be prevention, and it might be just activation of the body, or some rehab stuff that the physios or me gave him, and just made sure that he did before the basketball practice. But I really feel that the weight room is a big preparation part of our basketball practice. Like it's something that we use every day. Of course, every player in each load and every player in a different day maybe, but it's part of our day, going into the weight room, exactly like, tying their shoes before practice. So they know they gotta go into the weight room before the practice to see me, to talk, to get the vitamins, to work out, to lift, to activate themselves, whatever they need. Of course, I try to be as functional as I can, and specific for the game of basketball. I think that I'm trying to be really individual for each player. I will never have a 35-year-old guy lifting like a 20-year-old guy, and I will never have a guy that plays 30 minutes 3 times a week, lifting like a player who doesn't play at all and has time to develop, and I can push him more. So I try to be, really on the money with each player and try to build some, custom-made program for him, which is, for his abilities, for his size, for his medical history, like really finding the ways to hit, each player where he needs to be.
So, I really like how you have set everything up at Menorah. For those who haven't been there, they have the weight room in between the locker room and the court. So it's perfect because each player has to go through the weight room before getting on the court. So that's very, very important, and I like it a lot.
Yeah, it's really good. Also, the weight room is the first thing that a player sees when he goes inside the arena. When you go down to the locker room, the weight room is the first thing that you see, and I'm the first guy to see, so I can control the times that they arrive to the gym. If I see something is wrong, if I see someone who's, I don't know, limping at the stairs, I can, talk to him about it and see what happened. If I have a guy that, comes with dry lips, then maybe I can think of an option that he is dehydrated. So, it's small things, but it can make a difference. Like, I really like it the way it's set up as well, but I'm not objective,
And which are the pillars of your weightlifting sessions?
I think I'm pretty basic. Okay, the pushing, the pulling, the deadlifts, the lunges, the squats, like all kinds of variations, really depending on the player and his abilities and his background. Like I would try, let's say, not all guys like lifting with bars, like back squats, and I will try to find the right variation for each player. Just a small example was the squat. Not every player can do pull-ups, so some guys might do single arm mid pulls or whatever. I will try to find the specific exercise which is more suitable for him. I really like body weight exercises. Okay, I really like core stuff, stability, unilateral work. I try to hit all planes of motion. Try to keep them as mobile as I can. Nothing too crazy. I mean, I'm not the guy. I'm not one of the guys who tries to be so special at what he does. I think sometimes the basic work is the best. Like I really like my players controlling the basics and then take it from there. Because if you have players, and we are very lucky to have some players that are with us since juniors. So players like Yovel Zusman and Danny Avdia. So you can really develop a really good program with them. Like, you have a kid like Danny Avdia who a few years ago couldn't hold his body squatting, just body weight. So now he really works with really impressive weights and controls his body. And it's really fun process to see. But, I try to keep it basic and simple and take it from there. I'm never going to work with a player on an exercise that doesn't feel comfortable for him or doesn't feel right for his lower back or knees. I know that the first goal for me is to keep my players healthy. So always I will try to find the right exercises and the right balances between sets and reps and weights. I think this is really important when you're talking about such a competitive team, such as Maccabi, that plays every 2.8 days. So it's really important as well.
Sure. And you and me are pretty similar because both of us would like to have 12 players, hard workers, and that they like to lift every day and stuff like that. But we all have had experience with players that maybe don't want to lift or don't like to lift. What's your approach with these guys? That maybe sometimes they are also gifted players that they don't feel like they need to lift because they can already like run fast and jump high. And so what's your approach?
Well, as you said, I think it's in every level, like in the biggest teams and in some mid-level teams and low-level teams, is always, I think, if we have to speak about percentage, let's say we'll have 90% of our guys amazing workers, and we have another 10% that we have to push them to the weight room or pull them to the weight room, and like trying to convince them and explaining to them how important it is, because some guys, let's say you get a player who is 30 years old and he's been all over, and he played in, I don't know, he played in China and he played in Lebanon and he played in Russia, and maybe he had some bad experiences with some programs of strength and conditioning coaches and didn't really had good connection. So like you really have to be the guy that convinces your player that if he doesn't lift, if he doesn't take care of his body, he cannot handle the loads that we have here in Maccabi, or maybe even other teams which are smaller than Maccabi. But I really think that sometimes this process, it might be hard, it might be really frustrating. We might have confrontations, and every time that we have the preseason talk of all the teams together with the coaches and players and staff, I always say that confrontation is a really important thing in the process of a team. Like you cannot always be happy and agree on everything. And I really respect my players, and I respect the experience of players and the places that they came from. But at the end of the day, they have to do what I tell them to do in the weight room or on the court. For sure, I will respect every opinion that they have, or every problem that they have, or something feels inconvenient. Then for sure I can listen. But then at the end of the day, it will be my call if we're gonna do this exercise or not. For sure, I will never bump heads with the players that tells me I don't like bench pressing. Okay, I rather do chest press with dumbbells. Okay, I'm not gonna fight with him about the variation. I just care about my principles. So if I have to be smart with one player just to earn him, earn his trust in the process, then I will do it. But I will never let a player that comes and tells me, "Hey, I hate the weight room. It makes me shoot bad in games." There's no chance I'm gonna let him, live without going into the weight room, because first of all, it's not true, and I will do everything that I can to convince him and to show him that there is a way to combine between the things. Because for me, a player that doesn't lift or doesn't go in the weight room is not, I don't know, he's not good to go. Like, how can you be a basketball player without using the weight room, without taking care of your body, without eating right, without sleeping the right amount of time, without preventing injuries, without doing your treatments? For me, a player in Maccabi cannot survive more than a week or two. Like, you have to live around your body. Your body is your temple, especially when you play so many games and the load is crazy and the game is so athletic and intense. So for sure, every season I have one or two guys, but I think that the culture of the place is also a big factor. Because let's say if you have on your team like 10 or 11 really good lifters and guys that love to work, then I'm guessing that the rest of the players will follow, okay, which is also really important. So sometimes also using the guys that are hard workers and like the weight room stuff and like the lifting, I use them as well sometimes. Like I would go to a player like John Di Bartolome and tell him, hey, go speak to this guy, tell him, explain to him, he's new on the system, okay? Explain to him that this is the way that we do stuff in Maccabi, that this is our culture, that we are intense, that we take care of our bodies, that we lift hard, that we play hard, that we play, we play really intense defense, that we play in high tempo. Like, you have to be ready for it. And I can use those guys sometimes because they have more experience on this team. And they know me, okay? They know that sometimes I lose patience quickly. But I will never give up on a player, okay? If I have to fight with him every morning just to get him in the weight room and eventually he will get in the weight room, I will do that. I'm not scared of confrontation. And for those of you that are listening and know me, then it's part of what I am, okay? I don't mind. I think it's part of the job. You cannot be nice all the time. For sure, you got to be a good person and take care of your player, but you cannot be nice the whole time.
Sure. And there are a lot of tricks that the Australian coach can use. For example, as you said, you can also partner players up during a weightlifting session with a new guy that maybe doesn't like to lift, and a guy that maybe is a returning player that he likes to lift and is a hard worker. Do you do it?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I know that some of my players think that I'm a drill sergeant from the army. Okay, sometimes I behave like that. So sometimes I can be, a dickhead from time to time. So I need to use other people. Okay, I like being the bad cop. Okay, but I have no problem, going to one of the players and using him just, for the benefit of the team, for the benefit of the other player to stay healthy, to perform. Like it's at the end of the day, it's for their career. Okay, I love what I do and I love to see them work, but it's for them to perform. It's for them to, make bigger contracts. It's for them to, I don't know, finish 3 years in Maccabi and have some offers from NBA. Like it's because they worked on their bodies, because they came ready to games. It's like because they stayed healthy and performed. So I really think, every means I will use it.
Sure. Do you use small groups in the weight room?
Yeah, well, we never, I mean, it's very rare that we lift as a team because, in our club, every player has such a different schedule. Like some guys play 3 times a week for like 20, 25, 30 minutes sometimes. And some guys play maybe once a week. And we have some young guys and you have some guys rehabbing from injuries and you have some vet guys. So for sure, we don't have days that we lift together as a team. Each player on the squad will receive on the weekend his schedule for the next week for the lifts, and he will know exactly which days I want him to come to the lift. So I don't believe in these team lifts also because our weight room is not that big. I mean, it's really nice and I love it, but it's not that big, and I have to be efficient with my space. So even if we're gonna have a team lift, I will split it to groups of 2, might be guards and bigs, and then switch. But I try to keep it individualized, schedule and programs.
Okay, so let's switch gears and let's talk about preseason. It's almost July, and of course we need to start thinking about preseason, even though we're still playing now.
Yes.
The preseason is the part of the year where we can say we are the rock stars, right? There's a lot of excitement. It never gets old for strength coaches. So, what's your approach during the preseason?
First of all, preseason I know is your favorite subject. Huh? You can speak about it all day long.
Sure.
So I'm just gonna roll with you. Well, what changed for me the last 2 years when we started playing the new concept of the EuroLeague is the most important things that changed for me in my mind is the number of scrimmages played during the preseason. Because in the previous years we were always talking about, let's say, playing, let's say, between 7 to 10 scrimmages, which is high number. And now, we don't have a lot of time to prepare, and we have some rules of EuroLeague player associations about dates that we can start. And we have so many games during the season, and we have some guys that playing a few years in the EuroLeague, and they have a lot of loads on their bodies. So one of the things in the last summers is I really recommend my system is to have less scrimmages during the preseason and maybe have some more time to practice and more time to recover the guys and more time to have the vitamins work, let's say, on the individual work and on lifts and on a specific cardio on the basketball court exercises. So I really think it's a change that in the last 2 years I've been trying to implement more in our system, because let's say Maccabi of 7 years ago, we play so many games during the preseason, and now I like to take it more to the side of vitamins work, of taking care of the player's body, and just teaching them how to work properly in the weight room and on the court, and maybe a lot of non-contact parts of the basketball, together with the coaching staff. So I really think it became much more individual preseason, much more than team preseason. Of course, there are some times in the preseason that you have to create some load for the team, and to play 5-on-5 on practices and to scrimmage against other teams. But in the new schedule of EuroLeague, where you fly so much during the season and you have so many games and you have so many flights and obligations for a team, is I try to keep the preseason as sane as I can, because really the season here is really busy and intense. So I think the preseason became much more, I don't want to say to the recovery side, but it's much more gradually builded than before.
How do you make sure that your players report in a good shape?
You mean from off season coming to preseason?
Yes.
Well, I'm very proud of this of this element of my work, because I think in the last few years we really created a system that players has to report, and I'm speaking to every. I will just say to some who don't know that most of our guys don't live in Israel during the off season. They leave to the States. Most of them are American. We have, like, let's say 15 players, and maybe 10 of them don't live in Israel. So you have players making big money, okay, really good players, really talented players, and when they finish the season, they go back home to the States, and basically you come to a situation that you have some players that you cannot see for 2 or 3 months. So one thing we are able to do is I'm trying to fly every summer to, like, 2 or 3 players that are really important for us, and maybe that we think that we need to see them more during the off season, just to be with them for a week, let's say, and walk out with them and speak to the trainers that are with them in the States, and explaining to them exactly what we need, and seeing the situation, the physical situation, and seeing the body composition, if they gained weight, if they lost weight. So, we have some players that we fly to see, if it's me, if it's basketball coaches. For players that I cannot see, then I will talk every 2 or 3 days to them, or to the trainers, or to the basketball coaches that are working with them in the States, and having them sending videos just to see that they are doing the stuff that I wanted to in a proper way, and like just keeping the connection alive, because it keeps the players engaged, and it keeps you in the process. If you have a certain problem, then you can solve or control. Let's say if I will have one of my guys working, and if, I don't know, if he will have a knee problem, then I can also hook up the physio to speak to him, just to solve it from distance. And I really want to try to avoid some situations of overweight players coming into the preseason, and having my players healthy during the off season, and not being surprised, because you can have a player 2 months in the States, and if you're not going to have some good connection with him, then all of a sudden he comes to preseason, he has some problem you didn't even know of, and it's just going to waste time. You don't have time in Maccabi. Like, you have to start the preseason, and very quick you're going to find yourself playing in pressure times. So you have to fix everything and solve everything before it happens. So I'm not waiting for preseason anymore to see if I have some problems. If I have some problems, I want to know it before. And also getting my doctor involved if there's something that the players needs, or if I have to build some prevention routine or some rehab routine for some players who came back from some injury in another team, and I never saw this player in my life. So I really have to control everything, and I think we have been doing a good job, like controlling our players in the off season. I really think is really is the first step to having a good preseason. Is controlling your off season.
Which are the most important information that they try to collect during the off season, and then maybe share with the rest of the staff?
There are a few, like I think that the medical history of a player is really important, because once you have the medical history of a player, you know how to build a program even from the distance. Like, even if we would sign a player, let's say, I don't know, who plays in Turkey, and it's not a player that I know, but if I will have the proper medical history, and talking to his trainer from his previous team, and understanding what he did there, then maybe I can try to build some suitable program for him, which will not be too complicated, or will not be, too difficult to do on his own without seeing me before he's coming to Israel. So I think his medical history, his body composition, just reading about the player, about some former injuries that he has, or seeing some, even watching some clips, simple YouTube clips of each player, just to see how he runs the flow, how he jumps, how he moves laterally. Like you can really try to, just like your scouting department that sees player, is something that you have to do as well. Like, I sometimes in the off season, I go to the offices and watch some of the players with some of the development staff and just, trying to find some patterns or some, problems or some maybe even advantages of the players that you just signed and you never worked with. You have to find a way like to discover, really
Yeah,
learn your player.
that's very important. As we said before, we're not just in the weight room. We need to be part of the staff decisions, and also as far as like assigning a player or not, we need to be part of that decision. Of course, that's really, really important.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, so let's talk about another very, very important topic. How do you make sure to stay up to date?
Well, to be honest, I don't have to do anything. You just send me every research and every protocol that exists. So I try to read as much as I can. Although our days here are crazy, but I really have to find the time, especially when we fly, is a really good time to develop yourself because you have so many hours on bus, on plane. This is the best time to even develop yourself, I think. And I said it as a joke, but it's true. People like you that push your colleagues to read more, to see other experiences, to see other approaches. Even if it's something that I don't agree with or looks weird to me, it's always good to see and always good to hear because you have to see everything, the good things, the bad things. It's like you have to know all opinions, and you have to see people that are like you, and you have to see people that are the exact opposite of you, just to get better. So I think reading, watching other trainers for sure. Um, I actually like seeing also, I get some insights from my physios, from my doctors as well. Maybe speaking to some guys from other fields such as soccer trainers, tennis trainers, like trying to get, as much info that I can and take what I believe in. I think back in the days when I was um, at the beginning of my career, I think I've seen everyone in Israel. Really, I went to see all practices in every field, and like at some point, I said, okay, I've seen, like, for sure you can see all day, but I've seen the things that I think that are relevant, and I will take this good thing from this guy and these good things from this guy, and I will try to make it my own. Okay, I will never be copy paste kind of coach, because if it's not something which is right for your character and for what you demand from your players, you will be terrible at your job. Okay, you have to find what's relevant for you, what's right for your beliefs, what's right for your principles, and like over the time is you learn to develop ways of your own, not just things that you see. Because when you are young, this is the way you start. You see other people and you try to create some system which is not completely yours. And then when you find your way, is the days that you feel that you created your own system, that people to come to see you. Okay, I think is a really, it's almost like an enlightenment. Okay, it's like you feel, okay, this is my way. So I might take some stuff from Roberto, I might take some stuff from Luca, some stuff from Costas, but my principle is mine. Like, I created my system, and I can take good things from everybody. It's okay. It's not stealing, and it's not copying. It's just, combining other stuff that I learned from outside to my system.
Yes, sure. But in our profession, like, stealing is not a bad thing. I mean, if you see something that is good and you can apply in your system, you can apply in a context, it's great. I mean, you just need to learn what to steal and when to use it and how to use it. That's important.
I agree. I've seen all over some coaches that are trying to be something that are not, and taking stuff from other coaches and putting them in the wrong places, the wrong times, and like in out of context. So if you do that, you really have to be precise of when to put it, how to put it. Like it's complicated, but for sure you have to use stuff that you see from outside, but you have to make it in your style, okay, in your style, in your way of work. Like it cannot be just something out of the blue that you come to a player that is working with you for 7 months, and all of a sudden in time of playoff you've seen something amazing on YouTube and you come to a player and say, hey, do that. No, that's a foul. That's risking your player. Okay, everything has to be gradual. Everything has to make sense. Everything has to be right for this player. So you have to be careful with this as well.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Regev, let's finish off with 3 rapid fire questions, all right?
Let's do it.
So first one, favorite exercise in the weight room?
All sorts of push-ups.
Okay. Second one, best strength and conditioning book?
I would go for Luca book. I really liked it. Luca from Baskonia.
That's a great one.
Yeah, I loved it.
Okay, last one. Pick one. Workout or cheat day?
Cheat day after the workout. What do you mean? You cannot have a cheat day if you don't work out. So
great answer. All right, Regev. Thank you very much. A lot of great information. Thanks for sharing your knowledge with us. I'm pretty sure that a lot of our listeners will benefit from this episode.
Hey man, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me. Love you, brother.
All right, and I'll see you next week.
Yeah, I know.
Bye.
See you, buddy. Bye-bye.